You ever notice how the people with the least money somehow end up spending the most? I'm not talking about big purchases like houses or cars, I'm talking about the everyday stuff. The small decisions that seem harmless but slowly drain your bank account like a leaky faucet you never bothered to fix. Here's something that'll probably make you uncomfortable. Poor people and rich people shop at completely different stores, eat different food, and make totally opposite financial decisions. And no, it's not because rich people are smarter or work harder. It's because they understand something about money that broke people simply don't. My name is Mike, and I spend way too much time analyzing spending patterns, consumer behavior, and why some people build wealth while others stay trapped in the same financial patterns for decades. If you've ever wondered why your paycheck disappears so fast while your wealthy friend seems to have money left over despite making the same income, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you see your spending habits differently. Let's start with something that's going to sting a little: lottery tickets. Walk into any convenience store in a lower income neighborhood and you'll see people lined up buying scratch-offs and Powerball tickets, spending $20, $50, sometimes even $100 per week on a mathematical impossibility. The odds of winning the Powerball are about 1 in 292 million. You're literally more likely to be struck by lightning twice than to win the jackpot. But here's what makes this so tragic. The people buying these tickets are the ones who can least afford to lose the money. They're not playing for entertainment. They're playing because they genuinely believe this is their only shot at financial freedom. Rich people don't buy lottery tickets, not because they're too sophisticated, but because they understand expected value. They know that every dollar spent on lottery tickets is a guaranteed loss over time. If someone spent just $20 per week on lottery tickets for 30 years, that's $31,200 in total spending. If they invested that same $20 weekly in a basic index fund earning 8% annually, they'd have over $100,000. The lottery isn't selling you a chance at wealth. It's selling you a guarantee of staying poor. Next up, payday loans and check cashing services. If you've ever driven through a struggling neighborhood, you've seen these places on every corner. A typical payday loan charges around $15 for every $100 borrowed. That might not sound terrible until you realize that if you calculate it as an annual percentage rate, it works out to nearly 400% interest. 400%, that's not a financial service. That's legalized theft. Rich people would never dream of using a payday loan. If they need short-term cash, they have a line of credit from their bank, borrowing against their investment portfolio, or simply using a credit card that charges 15 to 20% interest, which sounds high until you compare it to 400%. Better yet, they have emergency funds, so they don't need short-term loans at all. The cruel irony is that being poor is expensive. When you don't have money, you end up paying more for everything. Here's another big one: rent-to-own furniture and electronics. These stores are everywhere in lower-income areas. No credit needed. Take it home today. Just $25 per week? What they don't advertise in big letters is that by the time you finish paying off that $500 TV, you've actually paid $1,800 for it. The math on rent-to-own is absolutely predatory. You're essentially paying triple or quadruple the retail price for items you could save up and buy outright in a few months. Wealthy people buy their furniture and electronics outright, or if they finance something, they use a 0% interest credit card offer and pay it off before the promotional period ends. They're not paying $1,800 for a $500 TV. They're paying $500 or less because they bought it on sale and had the cash to take advantage of the discount. Let's talk about cars, because this is where the spending gap becomes absolutely massive. Broke people buy new cars with long loan terms. They walk into a dealership focused entirely on one question: what's the monthly payment? So someone making $35,000 a year drives off the lot in a $40,000 truck with a $650 monthly payment. They're going to be making that payment for the next 8 years. And 3 years in, they'll owe more on the truck than it's worth. Rich people buy used cars, or if they buy new, they buy something reliable and keep it for 10 to 15 years. They understand that a car is a depreciating asset, not an investment or a status symbol. Warren Buffett. One of the richest people on earth famously drove a modest car for years. Not because he couldn't afford better, but because he understood that spending $100,000 on a luxury vehicle is just burning money. Here's something that might surprise you. Broke people spend way more on convenience. They buy single-serving snacks at gas stations for $3 when the same snack costs $50 in a bulk pack at the grocery store. They buy lunch every day at work for $12 when they could pack a lunch for $3. They pay $5 for coffee every morning when they could make it at home for $50. Each of these purchases seems small and insignificant. But here's the math that'll make you sick. $5 per day on coffee, $1.12 per day on lunch, and $5 per day on snacks adds up to $22 per day. Over a year, that's over $5,000. That's more than many people have in their entire savings account. Rich people buy in bulk, they meal prep. They use a coffee maker, not because they're cheap, but because they understand that convenience has a price that compounds over time into real money. Here's another category: bank fees. Broke people pay overdraft fees, monthly maintenance fees, ATM fees. The average person who lives paycheck to paycheck pays hundreds of dollars per year, just for the privilege of having a bank account. Rich people don't pay bank fees. Their accounts have minimum balances that waive all fees. Or they use online banks that don't charge fees at all. The idea of paying $35 because your account went negative by $5 would be absurd to them. Let's talk about credit cards. Broke people use credit cards to buy things they can't afford. They carry balances, pay minimum payments, and get destroyed by interest charges. The average credit card interest rate is around 20%. Which means if you carry a $5,000 balance and only make minimum payments, you'll pay thousands in interest over the years. Rich people use credit cards as tools. They pay off the balance in full every month. They collect points and cash back. They use credit cards for the fraud protection and convenience, but they never pay a cent in interest. They're essentially getting paid to use someone else's money for 30 days. Even better, wealthy people understand leverage. They'll use debt strategically to buy assets that appreciate or generate income, but consumer debt is financial poison. Here's something subtle but important. Broke people buy based on monthly payments. They ask, can I afford the monthly payment? Rich people ask, what's the total cost? And what's the opportunity cost? When you focus only on monthly payments, you end up making terrible financial decisions. You buy more car than you need because you stretch the loan to 8 years. You finance furniture for 36 months. Each individual payment seems manageable, but collectively, they trap you in a cycle where you're always making payments on something. Rich people think in terms of total cost and opportunity cost. That $40,000 car isn't just $40,000. It's $40,000. That could have been invested and grown to $100,000 over 10 years. Every dollar spent is a dollar that can't be invested. They're acutely aware of this trade-off. Here's a painful one: education and self-improvement. Broke people are more likely to spend money on things that provide immediate entertainment rather than long-term value. They'll drop $60 on a new video game but won't spend $20 on a book that could change their career trajectory. They'll pay for cable TV but not for online courses or certifications. Rich people invest heavily in themselves. They buy books, take courses, attend conferences, hire coaches. They understand that the best investment you can make is in your own skills and knowledge. A $500 course that helps you negotiate a $5,000 raise is a 10x return on investment. Let's talk about something controversial: brand names. Broke people are more likely to buy expensive brand name clothes, shoes, and accessories. They want the status symbol, the visible marker that says, I'm doing okay. A $200 pair of Nike shoes, a $300 designer purse. Rich people often wear surprisingly modest clothing. They'll spend money on quality, but they don't need the logo. They're secure enough that they don't need to broadcast their wealth through brands. The truly wealthy often look surprisingly ordinary. This is about insecurity and social signaling. When you're struggling financially, you want visible markers of success. The irony is that buying these status symbols keeps you poor. Here's a big one that affects long-term wealth. Broke people don't invest. They see investing as something rich people do, something complicated and risky. So they keep money in savings accounts earning 1% while inflation eats away at it. Rich people invest everything that isn't needed for immediate expenses. They have money in index funds, real estate, businesses. They understand that investing isn't gambling. It's how you protect money from inflation and how you build wealth over time. The math here is brutal. $10,000 sitting in a savings account for 30 years might grow to $11,000. That same $10,000 invested in the stock market with average returns would grow to over $100,000. The opportunity cost of not investing is the difference between retirement security and working until you die. Here's something that surprised me. Broke people spend more on temporary fixes. They'll buy cheap shoes that wear out in 6 months instead of quality shoes that last 5 years. They'll buy a cheap used car that requires constant repairs instead of a reliable used car that costs more upfront. This is the boots theory of economics. If you can only afford cheap boots that last a year, you'll spend more over 10 years than someone who could afford expensive boots that last a decade. Being poor is expensive because you can't afford the upfront cost of quality. Rich people buy quality items that last. They understand the lifetime cost of ownership. They'll spend $200 on boots that last 10 years rather than $50 on boots that last 1 year. Over time, they spend less and have better stuff. Here's the most important point. The difference between broke people and rich people isn't intelligence or work ethic. It's knowledge and habits. Broke people don't make bad financial decisions because they're stupid. They make bad decisions because they've never been taught better ones. And because the entire consumer economy is designed to exploit those who can least afford it. Rich people aren't better people. They just have better information and better habits. They understand concepts like compound interest, opportunity cost, and asset allocation. They make decisions based on logic rather than emotion. The good news is that knowledge and habits can be learned. You don't need to be born rich to think like rich people. Here's what you need to understand. Every dollar you spend is a choice. It's a choice to consume now rather than invest for later. Broke people spend by default. They buy what's in front of them, what's advertised to them. Their spending is reactive, not intentional. Rich people spend intentionally. Every purchase is a conscious decision weighed against alternatives. The path from broke to wealthy isn't complicated. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference, avoid consumer debt. Buy quality over quantity. Invest in yourself. These principles are simple. The hard part is having the discipline to follow them year after year. And here's the really hard truth. You can't buy your way to looking wealthy. The people who look rich, with the nice cars and designer clothes, are often broke. The people who are actually wealthy often look surprisingly ordinary. Real wealth is what you own, not what you show. So here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, track every penny you spend, not to judge yourself, but to understand where your money actually goes. Then ask yourself if each expense is bringing you closer to your goals or further away. Because once you're aware of your patterns, you can change them. The difference between broke people and rich people isn't the size of their paycheck, it's what they do with it. And what you do with your money starting today will determine where you are financially 10, 20, 30 years from now. The choice is yours. Make it count.